Roman Reigns ditched Paul Heyman.
Like, Paul E. will always be Paul E. Dangerous to me, Paul Heyman.
To me, it was very melodramatic. I just feel that the story could have been built a lot better.
And this week, we're going to do the People's Champion versus the People's Champion.
I was dead from there on out to become a manager. Oh, my God, you stuffed him like nobody stuffs him.
So let's start off with the, oh my God, moment of the week. So Roman Reigns on SmackDown fired Paul Heyman. There's no longer an alliance between Reigns and Heyman. And that's it. He gave him a Superman punch, and that was it. So, Paige, let's go to you, my man. So do you think that Roman Reigns ditching Paul Heyman is too soon?
First of all, who's surprised? Like, I'm not surprised. I mean, first of all, Lesnar comes back. I don't care when he's in. Like, Paul E. will always be Paul E. Dangerous to me, Paul Heyman. He's been like Brock Lesnar's shoot manager the whole time. So where's his alliance going to go? Like, Roman, so does that make him? You know what? I always thought that Roman, when he finally turned to heel, would really get over. And if he walks that edge, the way I did in 1997, the way Stone Cold walked his whole career, I think he might just be the biggest babyface of the company. Could be. Could be. Got to get rid of Heyman. The first thing that's going to make him a babyface is knocking out Heyman. But him going against Lesnar, Lesnar's a shoot babyface.
Yeah, do you see a double turn at day one?
That's it all depends on the people have to turn you. You can't turn you. You know? And all I know is I go back to and everybody watched it, you know, back in mine and Vince's day, you know, they watched when the NWO was ruling television, and when I was a friggin' heel, like from A to Z, I just turned my aggression off the fans to the NWO, and they were ready for me to be a babyface. They wanted me to be a babyface. So are they ready for Roman? I guess if that happens, we'll see.
Vince, Roman Reigns ditched Paul Heyman. Was it too soon?
I got to tell you, Chris, you know, again, you know, I look at everything from a writing aspect, and to me, it was very melodramatic. You know, I mean, you know, I go back and I think of storylines like Rock joining the corporation, and I think of the months and the months and the months that was in the pipeline, and I looked at the way they paid this thing off, and man, it was just, to me, it was kind of flat. It was a little melodramatic. So I'm going to say, yeah, bro, it was probably too soon, because I just feel that the story could have been built a lot better.
Let me interject there. Let me interject on that. When I did say, when they asked me to come in the NWO, and I went, yeah, now you want me? Like number 7? What about number 3 or number 4? The booking committee did not believe that I should be in that spot to drop those guys. So they stretched it out. And they stretched it out. And it pissed the hell out of me, because it took 10 weeks. It was the best thing ever happened to me.
Yeah.
Like the best thing. Like, sometimes when things look like they're the worst thing that happened to you, they're the best. And this scenario, if you just ask me a straight question like that, because I have to look at all the stuff, yeah, like way too soon. And Heyman could have been like kissing his ass. That's where I would have gone with it. No, I love you. He's just a client, you know, and Paul can talk his way out of a paper bag. So
for sure. Yeah, it seems like it was. I think it was too soon too. I think it was. They really could have stretched this thing out if they really want to have a trilogy of matches with Lesnar and Reigns. First of all, I'm not a big fan of them still having like multiple matches between Lesnar and Reigns. I don't think that either of them need each other to really help another superstar. Like, they don't need each other to help each other right now. They need to be helping someone else right now, especially heading into WrestleMania season. But if they are doing these matches to really help, from a rating standpoint, because they are SmackDown is the premier ratings puller of all of pro wrestling. I mean, their SmackDown has the highest ratings of all of professional wrestling right now.
Chris,
so obviously
what are those ratings? What are those ratings right now?
They usually get around 2.1, 2.2, somewhere around their average. Yeah.
Can you imagine, Vince? A different platform. It's a whole different world.
I got to tell you, Paige, I will never forget when I was working, at the WWE, and I'll never forget the day that it was, we were at a taping the next day. Kevin Dunn walked up to Vince McMahon, and he said to Vince, I never thought in my lifetime that I would see wrestling draw 10 million people on a Monday night, bro.
Wow.
Different platform.
Different platform. That's how I used to be. Yeah, that's how I used to be. Yeah.
Yep.
Because y'all were drawing during the Monday Night Wars. Y'all were drawing like fours quite a bit.
Dude, when we got let go, we were doing 3/8 to 4.2s when we were being cancel wrestling.
Yeah.
Think about that. And WWE had been kicking our ass for quite a while at that time. But we were still doing an unbelievable number.
Yep.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. They would kill to have half the numbers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. A 4 nowadays. I mean, that's like gold nowadays. Getting a 4, but yeah. I mean, as far as the Roman Reigns thing, I'm just not. I like what we're seeing right now with babyface. Brock Lesnar. I do see a double turn coming because just. Heel Lesnar is in his lane, and it gives an opportunity for a babyface to be built up. So we'll see.
Heyman will never be a babyface anything.
That's why I'm like, that's why it's weird to align with Brock Lesnar. If he's fired from Reigns, that means just by default he'll align with Brock Lesnar, who's a face. So I definitely see a turn coming. So Lesnar,
it's a double crisscross, and Heyman has something to do with Brock Lesnar losing, which gives that bump up, and back with Roman, and it's a double switch.
Yeah, but the only problem with that, Paige, is it's gonna be hard to believe it was a swerve and a double swerve when he's taking a freaking Superman punch from Reigns. You know what I'm saying? I mean, bro, I'll never forget, the week before Rock joined the corporation, Rock dropped the elbow on Vince. And everybody was like, oh, my God. But, bro, it was an elbow. It was an elbow. For Heyman to take a punch in the face from Reigns and it's all a work, that's going to be a little kabuki-ish.
No, we'll see.
You know what? Paige, it's interesting because I mentioned that in the conversation that recently, within the past couple of days, that Heyman may be a double swerve. I'm not confident in how would it go leading to Mania. Just, the swerve for swerve's sake doesn't really do much to me. If it means something heading into WrestleMania, then maybe we can go from there. But we'll see come day one, which is actually a week from Saturday. So it's coming up. So along with those lines, as far as firing is concerned, we saw a segment on Raw when Vince McMahon was talking to Austin Theory. He said a really dicey comment. He said, matter of fact, quotes, he said, he talks about firing people during the holidays. And he said in his mumble way, it gives me a warm feeling. My stomach, it really didn't feel. So, and he starts rubbing his stomach in a mumble way, and he was talking to Austin Theory, and people got legit upset about that. Frankie Monet, who was in NXT, the wife of John Morrison, she's better known as Ty Valkyrie. She actually tweeted about it, and it showed her disdain about making a comment like that. She did say that him firing does light people up, but you could tell that she was affected by that. We'll start with Vince. Do you think that comment was appropriate, seeing how they fired over 80 people this year?
Bro, that's just Mr. McMahon being his heel character. I mean, that's 100% what that is. And I mean, again, bro, we don't want to see anybody get fired. I mean, that's not a good thing. But I would not take that comment personally like that. That's just him playing the character, bro, that he's played for the last 30 years,
Yeah. Paige, do you think the uproar was appropriate, or do you think it was just a character?
I don't know if that's real or shoot, in our world, period. But Dusty and I, we always used to talk about who's the greatest heel ever in professional wrestling. It's the guy who's the greatest heel, Vince McMahon. And, I mean, they just let go a shitload of people. Oh, a hell of a lot of people. Didn't mean to say that on this show. But that's one way to just go with the show. Like, it is what it is, man. You get hired. You get to live the dream. At some point, we all get fired or let go or quit. Or move on,
I can see from both ends. I can see why wrestlers will legit get upset about that, seeing how there was just a recent wave of firings. But I agree with y'all too. I mean, I think it's just a heel being a heel, and like heels has gotten so soft, nowadays. It's just like, what happened to what? Yeah, well, and it's like I've interviewed, your boy Jake before, DDP, and he told me before how he used to, when he was a heel, he loved being a heel. Like he considered it a trophy when his tires were slashed, when his car was marked up. Like he would go out to the parking lot and he would see that, and he was like, "Okay, I'm doing my job correctly." And it's like, it's just a different day nowadays. Paige, your thoughts on that?
Well, it's everybody knows it's work, but can you control those emotions to blur the lines? And they're still blurring the lines. And this is a perfect example. And Frankie, I love her, man. I was at her wedding with Johnny Morrison. And, when John was thinking about going back, I was like, bro, go to AEW. You'll be a huge star there. Because Johnny is one of the most talented workers on the planet.
Yeah, for sure.
And this is WCW, just different. AEW is a different version. This millennium or whatever kids are called today, coming up through this WCW, where the work rate is different than just the jargon. Now they both do both, just like WCW did, but it's the workers there are. You just seen the guys show up from the Undisputed. All those cats can work their ass off, and they're where they should be right now.
Yeah. It's interesting that you said that, because I think that John Morrison should have went to AEW too. I just think that the money's probably good. As far as what he was doing a lot of indie stuff. He was doing a lot of he was just kind of all over the place, making money, racking up money, but lots of labor, doing a lot of dates and indie stuff. And I imagine going to the WWE, just being there and collecting a nice paycheck was probably kind of what prompted him to do that.
One of the most talented human beings as far as it being an athlete on the planet. I mean, this whole parkour stuff that he does. We have a show coming out in the second quarter of this 2022 on Netflix, and it's called Guardians of Justice. And he's one of the Guardians with me. And he's going to do some stuff there. It's going to be pot people, like really pot, because he's a real life superhero. Not many guys are real life superheroes. Johnny Morrison, Johnny Nitro, Johnny Hennigan, whatever you want to call him, he's a real life superhero.
Now, here's my last question along these lines here. Now, do you think that people going to AEW, like for instance, if they're in, the Indies, or if they're like in Ring of Honor, they've witnessed a mass exodus of talent because of their rebranding, their resetting for a while, which is a good call for ROH, by the way. I think their last event was really nice. It was really good. Created a lot of buzz going into the recession. And so, like for instance, there's people going into from ROH. Do you think if they feel like they won't succeed, or they'll just be another number in WWE, do you think that would hurt their stock going into AEW? For instance, Paige, Hennigan, if he goes into AEW, do you think it will cause the spark that if he just would have came from like Lucha Underground or the Indies?
He would have had a bigger spark coming in from Lucha. It's better just to take off. It's just better to take off for a while. Yeah. Again, talent will always rise to the top when given the opportunity. If you're not given the opportunity, as Vince, as Vince had the eraser, and the pencil, that controls everything. That I ever got over in my career, considering no one saw me there. It was only because of this and people doing it in the finish and they let me write my own storylines coming up. And I have that kind of control. But it's so hard, man. If they don't see it, it's so hard. And if you leave, you got to now take that break again. But Johnny coming back a year from now, I don't care when he comes back, he could really pop it. I believe, my own personal opinion.
John Morrison, what do you think, Vince? Should he take a break and then kind of recreate a spark and come to AEW?
Yeah, I think he has to, bro. They did so much damage to him over there. I mean, he's everything that Paige said he is, and basically they made him just another name on the roster, and he's so much more special than that. He definitely needs to take a little time off and come back fresh.
Yep, I agree. Next, we'll take a broing down memory lane. All right, so it's funny because we've been doing a lot of this versus this, and this week is just another. Last week we did the RKO versus the Diamond Cutter, and this week we're going to do the People's Champion versus the People's Champion. Now, I've interviewed you a bunch of times, Paige, before. Now we work together as colleagues. One of the interviews that you've, one of the times that I've interviewed you, you gave me a story. You gave my fan base a story about when you were talking to The Rock about the People's Champion. For those who haven't heard that, let the listeners know about the true People's Champion.
So really what happened was I was coming in for a pay-per-view in Canada. They had the Saturday night show, and Big Show was the champ at the time. And I kind of raised Big Show, Paul White, in the business. I got him ready for Hogan because they didn't put me on the road much. I was down at power plant, and I loved the big guy, and I worked with him and got him ready. And then when he got on the road, and then I was on the road at the bottom of the card, I got to ride with him. He took care of the room because they paid for the car and the room. So it saved me money. And I loved hanging with him because he's such a fun guy to be around. And now he's the champ. And I'm flying in, and Pat Patterson is in front of me in first class. And when he gets up, he's, you have to understand that Classy Freddie Blassie brought my tape to Pat from the AWA about me coming in as a manager. And Pat was like, great shtick, good look, but he's like Andre the Giant as a manager. I was dead from there on out to become a manager. So now he sees the career that I created over that next 8 years. And he's putting me over like crazy. And I said, Pat, would you mind if I come by tonight? Because Big Show is, your champ. I would love to come by. We're going to go out afterwards. He's like, absolutely, come by. No one comes by when it's WCW and WWF unless you need a job. I didn't need a job. I just signed a multi-million-dollar 3-year deal. When I get there, everybody's jaw drops, and Pat rushes me right upstairs because they don't want a WCW guy backstage. Not then. And Show was in the first main event before intermission. Rock, of course, was in the last part of it, and Rock wasn't The Rock yet, but he was on that rocket. He had the big old mullet chop sideburns, and Show and I, he said, come on, let's go. And I said, no, I want to watch The Rock work. So watch The Rock work. Afterwards, we come down. He goes to grab his bag. Hey, Rock, you back here? He goes, yeah. Now, this dressing room's huge. He goes, you still back here, Rock? He goes, yeah, I'm in the shower. He said, awesome. I got some huge Mark who's dying to meet you. And I just like, you some bitch. And I said, yeah, I don't want to meet you. I don't want to meet you unless you're naked and your body's all soapy. Now, you hear that voice in that, you know the voice, but you don't know it in your arena. And The Rock sticks his head around. He looks like the Michelin Man. He's all sudsed up, right? He goes, Diamond. I didn't realize he really sudsed himself up like that. I heard he's a clean freak on that, which I understand after what we do. Afterwards, he came out. We talked. He was just the nicest guy ever. Super, just Dwayne Johnson. And I said to him, I said, you know, Jake told me about you. He called me because Jake was booking in 96 when he came in. And he said, you know, where do you see this guy? He's going to be a huge star. And he's so good looking. I don't know if I want to fight him or fill in the blank. And Rock popped. We can't say that here because you asked me not to. Rock goes, that sounds like something Jake would say. And then I said, but he told me you were going to be a huge star. You were no one at the time. He told me I was going to be a huge star in 93. He told me Austin was going to be a huge star in 95. Mm-hmm. We all did pretty good. He goes, well, Jake's got a great eye for talent. I said, you know, I've been watching you ever since you got here. And there's something you did recently that I really loved. You were yourself. It wasn't like a WWE interview. I saw you somewhere being interviewed. And then you popped into The Rock this and The Rock that. And then you went back to yourself. And then you went back to The Rock this and The Rock that. I was like, man, that shit was entertaining. And we shook hands. I said, I can't wait to watch your career. Walking to the door, and I hear, hey, Diamond. And Big Show gets out of my way, and I can see him rolling into his Versace shirt, his $1,500 Versace shirts. I can see him rolling in the character. He said, you know, Diamond, there's only one people's champion. And Big Show was like, whoa. And I just deadpanned him. I said, you know, Rock, you're right. And you, my friend, well, you're looking at him. Oh, and I got out the door. And Big Show was like, oh, my God, oh, my God, oh, my God, you stuffed him like nobody stuffs him. And that night, we went out, and we got really drunk. And I got back to the hotel, and I'm married to Kimberly at the time. I'm like, baby, wake up, wake up. No, leave me alone. Leave me alone. No. I just want to talk to you. You got to hear how I'm going to show up in the WWF. Now, you have to understand, at that time, I just signed a multi-million-dollar 3-year deal. Downside, $4.7 million. Downside. Friggin', but I'm talking about how I'm going to show up in the WWF. She's like, what are you talking about? I go, no, please just listen to me. Here's what's going to happen. I met The Rock tonight. Here's what's going to happen. They're going to turn off all the lights. Everybody's going to think it's Jericho. But then it's going to go 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 45 seconds. Jim Ross is going to go, hold on, everybody. We're having technical difficulty. And then for the first time ever, you hear my voice in a WWF arena saying, who's the real people's champion? Spotlight. You're looking at him. Bang! All the shit. I tell her then, this is 2 years before I show up. 2 years. I said, he'll be hurt. He won't be able to have a comeback. He'll be doing a movie. I don't know. He'll be doing something, but he won't be there. And then we start the angle, and I create havoc until he gets back, and then eventually he kicks my ass. But the bottom line is, it would have been so money. Yeah. And I told that angle to Vince. No, no, no. We really want you to do this. Well, the bottom line is it was business.
Yeah.
And Vince McMahon is the grand poobah. He is the man. And he had to beat down the WCW. They're not going to. What would Eric Bischoff have done? Well, let me think. He took a guy named Scott Hall, who was Razor Ramon, and a guy named Diesel, who was Kevin Nash, and killed everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost put those boys out of business.
It's true.
Fucking,
Yeah.
That's not ego booking. And Vince wanted to prove a point because he is the grand poobah of all professional wrestling. I don't care what happens with AEW or pick another WCW or pick a new name that hasn't come out yet. They're never going to be Vince McMahon.
Vince Russo.
I think one of the biggest things that hurt me going in there, I was too much of a mark for Vince as a kid growing up. I mean, I friggin' thought Vince McMahon was was what he is. He's the grand poobah, man. Like, I respected him so much walking in there, probably too much, you know, because you got to be able, and Vince will tell you this, you got to be able to fight your way in there. And I was happy to be there. I wanted just to be there because I loved that since I was a kid, since it was the WWWF. You know, I watched Vince interview Andre on apple carts. And Vince, who's 6'2", you know, looked like a midget next to Andre the Giant. And I love the guy, you know. So, I mean, I understood it was business. Once I realized where I was, and oh boy, Bam Bam, this isn't Kansas anymore. If I knew I had to fight for everything the way I did in WCW, I would have came in with a whole different attitude. Well, to tell you the truth, I wouldn't have come in. I would have waited like Sting did. You know, I would have waited. And, you know, the bottom line is not since I helped AEW, because I was just helping Cody, but in after that first 5 years, those guys took care of me big time. And, you know, didn't just put me in the Hall of Fame, gave me, you know, the Rumble, and brought me in for the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. They highlighted me big time and really helped. WWE helped my company really explode. And it was all the good shit that they did with me and Jake that helped that. So I got nothing but love for the company, you know, all the way around.
As we close up, speaking of Royal Rumble, we're going to get to the low bro perfect segue page. We'll start with Vince Russo. Who will win the Royal Rumble match?
I am going to hope it's somebody that's not there now.
Interesting. Okay.
Wow, that's a great call, dude.
Yeah.
That's a great call. I don't know who you're going to pull out of your hat there. You know.
Yeah, I don't know who.
Do you have a suggestion?
I'm looking at this roster, and Chris, we talk about this every week with 50-50 booking.
Yep.
Who on that roster is going to win this thing, and it's going to be an oh my God moment? I don't see who that is that's there right now. I mean, you know, my inkling would be, bro, if they're going to push Austin Theory, like that's the way to push Austin Theory. But outside of that, I don't know who wins that thing and has an enormous impact.
Hey, so you got?
No, he took it from me. You know, with Austin Theory, just the way that Vince is doing what he's doing with him, because you know how he works. And that's my outside bet. But I'm just going to say Randy Orton only because he's the money. He's the drawing money. And Orton, you know, we had a very similar finish. I have a lot of respect for Orton. I think pound for pound, the size, the look, the rap, the believability, I think Orton is one of the best ever. My own personal opinion.
Agreed.
And he doesn't have much longer to go. He's going to go a little while longer. And right now, he's still viable, top guy. And if I'm going to try and draw money, now you build Austin Theory, that's a build. You got Randy Orton, that's money, and so that's just my own opinion, though,
Nice. I've got two options for both the man and the woman. For the woman, I've got Ronda Rousey, if she comes back, which is a possibility. I also have Naomi. I think Naomi should win just because it gives her an opportunity to really be built up the way that she should be. She's one of the most athletic female wrestlers in the entire business. And this thing was trying to build and be
crazy talented, dude.
Absolutely.
Crazy talented.
Absolutely. And I'm hoping that this stuff with Sign the Veil, it needs a payoff. Otherwise, that doesn't make much sense. For the guys, I've got two options too. Big E is my first option. I can see Seth Rollins winning at day one, winning the title, and then they having Big E win the Royal Rumble just a few weeks later to set up Big E versus Seth Rollins for Big E to have his big moment. I've said this many times, even when Vince and we do the Raw post show, and I even said it the day of, and you remember, Vince, I said, I just didn't really, I love that Big E's the champ, but to me, because Raw it's just such a subpar show, it just didn't have that big feel to it, which I didn't like. So maybe he'll get that another chance to do it at WrestleMania. My second option would be AJ Styles. I think with the babyface turn that we're kind of seeing with Omos, I think that they can actually set that up to just do a match against Omos, kind of keep it there, clamp it up at day one, and then start a babyface turn and have him win the Royal Rumble. He's never won the Royal Rumble. I think that'll be a good. You talking about money, Paige? Randy Orton's a really good. He's a really good option, but I think AJ is a good option too, and he's never won it before.
No, I love AJ, and that's one of the most talented cats ever, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Let's do some plugs. Let's do some social media plugs. Paige, you got some projects coming up. Let the listeners know.
We just dropped it on. We talked about it last week. We just dropped it on Sports Illustrated. Jake and our podcast is starting with Conrad on January 4th. So that's the latest news right now.
Very much. Awesome. Vince Russo, let them know about the brand, my man, and Channel Attitude.
Yes, everything, guys, everything. Just go to russosbrand.com and you'll see everything from there. Channel Attitude, Patreon. Just go to russosbrand.com.
Awesome. Of course, follow me at Chris Prolific. Vince and I, every single Monday night after Raw for the Legion of Raw. Also catch us on Sportskeeda. Subscribe to Sportskeeda because we also have our weekly Writing with Russo. And, of course, right here on Instagram for The Bro Show. And we got to end with Bro Show. Bro Show. Bro Show. See you guys.